Hey there, my name is Przemek and this is the 10th and the final part of my top 50 favorite dark deep ambient albums list, places 5 to 1. I think this is going to be quite a long video, so without further ado, let's get to the chase. Number 5, Alio Die, The Consecrated and Pure. This is the third Stefano Musso appearance on my list after Sola Translatio ad Infinitum and Fishers, the collaboration with Robert Rich. This time, however, we are dealing with Alio Die solo album from 2012, released by Project Records. In fact, Alio Die has at least 10 albums in his discography that I love unconditionally. Suspended Feathers, La stanza della transcendenza, Il tempo magico di Saturna Pavonia, collaborations with Matthias Grasso, Widna Obmana, Aglaja, Jack or Jive, to name just a few. However, I chose The Consecrated and Pure because for me it is the project's peak. It's Stefano Musso in top form and the album is simply extraordinary. Out of this world, even though the important components, not to say the basis for the whole album, are the sounds of a very specific and concrete origin. Let me read an excerpt from the release note by Project Records. Processed and layered into the mix are vocal pieces by Claudio Merulo, the work of this 16th century Venetian Renaissance composer was performed by Paolo Tognon and Quoniam Ensemble di Dulciane and the Labirinto Ensemble della Rinascenza, creating the essence of a historical religious feel. Yes, we have sounds here that have their source in Renaissance or Baroque music, in addition to the mentioned vocal parts, also in the melody itself, the Dulciana type instruments used, etc. However, if you think this is a modern interpretation of medieval Renaissance Baroque music, or rather interpretation created by contemporary musicians, like for example that Candence did on Ion album, you couldn't be more wrong. By the way, I really like all that Candence albums from the debut to Spirit Chaser, but really I can't get into Ion. I don't like it and I don't think it will ever change. And in general, I don't like the sound of medieval Renaissance Baroque music in its pure or at least transparent form. Although if it's served in the same form as on The Consecrated and Pure, it's a completely different story. It's all blended in drones and electronic loops in an exquisite and so elegant way. Referring once again to the description of the album by Project Records, it's a real journey through time and space. Let me tell you a story. I wrote about it on my Facebook profile several months ago, but probably most of you haven't read it. Anyway, I remember a couple of years ago I wrote a short story, 100% inspired by this album and the images it painted in my head. It was about an orange orchard somewhere in southern Europe in 15th or 16th century with young men gathering oranges. Although there were no fences or anything like that, they were kind of mentally enslaved by a woman, probably a witch, living in a house on the hill nearby. Each day they were just gathering oranges, and each night the witch was taking one man to her alcove, and after spending a couple of hours with him, she was turning him into a cat, and it was the only way of liberation for the man. In the end, I deleted the story from my hard disk, thinking it's quite cheesy, but now I regret it a bit because it had this warm, oniric atmosphere with a dark undercurrent, just like The Consecrated and Pure. Favorite tracks? The first one, Layers of Faith. Just listen to the to those natural sounds and how incredibly they morph into electronic soundscapes. And the third track, Peel Away This Mortal Coil, with these amazing melodies. I guess this is this Dulciana instrument mentioned. Although the album is rooted in a specific historical tradition, it is absolutely ethereal and magical. Stefano Musso referred to early music on many of his albums, but I didn't like it on all of them. But The Consecrated and Pure is ambient Mount Everest, and my favorite album released in the last 15 years, regardless of a genre. Number 5, Aliodie, The Consecrated and Pure. Number 4, a surprise for many of you probably, because it's simply that Structure of Minds. This is a little inconspicuous album, my little light that has accompanied me for about 25 years. Simply that is the Swedish project of Janne Boman and Per Nibel, and Structure of Minds is their only full-length album released by Fluttering Dragon in the year 2000. It wasn't a big premiere back then, not only in the ambient world in general, but also for the Fluttering Dragon label itself, which was releasing Puissance, Ildfrost, and Nordvarg, so the names already recognized on the scene of that time. And I remember the Structure of Minds was advertised back then as a project of live singer of In Slaughter Natives. But in the context of the album, this fact had no significance, I think, because Structure of Minds couldn't really be more distant from In Slaughter Natives works. And Janne Boman, because I'm talking about him, also had quite a good project, Nymph Fatist. I remember that when I saw the announcement of this album in the internet, it's a funny name, simply that, and the rather unattractive cover, I had no intention of buying it at all, even though I tried to check everything from Fluttering Dragon. But I came across a sample from the song Blind. This is the first song on the album, with those sampled fragments of Björk vocals, and I was enchanted. There was no darkness here like on Cold Meat Industry albums. There were no negative emotions either. Actually, if you think about it, formally from the point of view of nomenclature, it is difficult to describe this album as dark, because it is more warm or soothing ambient, sometimes interspersed with influences of, I think, trip hop, for example. It is the kind of music that hugs you when you're nervous or tired. This ambient flows non-invasively. Sometimes it pulsates nicely with bass lines, and it often catches the heart with a captivating melody. And this album also has a second layer, because the musicians used a lot of samples here, mostly from old sci-fi movies from the 50s or 60s, black and white, naive, with those ridiculous special effects. But I love those movies, and that makes me enjoy listening to Structure of Minds even more. And all these samples seem suspended in time and space, like words drifting in space, like some forgotten transmissions, and I have extremely personal relationship with this album, more than any other on this list. It's like, I don't know, it's like a friend to me. It may sound strange because it's just a few sounds compiled together by some guys, but somehow it reminds me of various moments in my life, the better and the worse ones. Maybe it's because the album doesn't impose any of its own interpretations, and it gives the impression that it listens to you just as much as you listen to it. I don't have such a relationship with any other album on this list. When Structure of Minds came out almost 25 years ago, people's reaction was so-so. I think they expected something different after the reference to Inslaughter natives in the press materials. Today you can find Structure of Minds on Discogs for €2 or even less than €2. I won't sell my copy even for €200. Number 4, simply that, Structure of Minds.
Is completed successfully, we could go back together. Now they tell me the Queen Mary's an ideal setting for a honeymoon. Funny, must be the battery or something. Oh, disturbing fact. Visitors come over and replace everything.
And now time for number 3. Raison d'être, The Empty Hollow Unfolds. And the greatest problem, or rather a dilemma I had when compiling this list, as I mentioned in the very first video of the series, I assumed that each project would be present with only one album. Of course, collaborations, it's a different story. Other projects by the same musicians, sure, of course, it's also a different story. But if I stuck to the rule that specific projects will appear with more than one album, then Desideri Marginis would have more, Ali Odie would have more, Matthias Grasov, Thomas Conner, etc. Probably 10 other projects as well. I came to a conclusion that it makes no sense, because such a list might be more accurate in my personal context, but it would also be quite boring for you as viewers if you had one episode with 3 Desideri Marginis albums, for example. But I had to make this one exception for Raison d'être. There was already one album on the list, The Stains of Embodied Sacrifice, on the place 26. And at some point I realized that it's still not enough, because within the depths of the silence and formations, and in sadness, silence, and solitude, are also extremely important to me. I think they could easily be more among the top 10 or top 15 as well. However, I decided to include The Empty Hollow Unfolds, because for me it's a more important album personally. Although I know that those two albums mentioned a moment ago are considered as better by most of Raison d'être fans. So I choose The Empty Hollow Unfolds, but let's treat it as a representative of this unofficial yet classic 90s Raison d'être trilogy. At least I treat them as a trilogy. Raison d'être was a kind of formative experience for me as a dark ambient fan. I don't know if it was the first dark ambient project I've ever heard, probably not, but it's probably the first one I knew that this is how the music should be described as, dark ambient. The first time I encountered Raison d'être music was probably when I was 18. That was also my first contacts with internet. I think it was 1997. I remember that I visited the Cold Meat Industry website, and there were music samples to download, but my internet connection was terribly slow back then. Downloading one image took several minutes, so you can imagine several minutes, maybe too much, 1 minute or 2 minutes. So you can imagine a few minutes of an audio file. How long would it take to download a 2 or 3 minutes song? Not to mention that the internet kept disconnecting all the time. Once I managed to download one file, but it turned out that it's broken or corrupted somehow, and the only first 15 or so seconds was able to could be listened to, and that was it. And later just some kind of feedbacks, interferences, white noise, or whatever. So I listened to this 15 seconds over and over again, and I fell in love with them. And I knew I had to get the Raison d'être albums one way or another. First I got Within the Depths of Silence and Formations. I traded the cassette with someone. Then I got In Sadness, Silence and Solitude. Then The Empty Hollow Unfolds. Then the earlier works, and so on and so on. Anyway, I love all three albums of that informal trilogy, more or less equally, but I think I have the greatest sentiment for The Empty Hollow Unfolds from the first track, Slow Ascent, which should be rather called The Slow Descent, through the wonderful The Hidden Hollows, The Wasteland, in which Peter Anderson wonderfully combines the industrial sounds of rolling heaps of sheet metal with those quasi-choral sounds and melodies, to the last monumental track, the Eternal Return and Infinity Horizon. A reviewer of one of the Polish magazines wrote about it. I speak off the top of my head. It was kind of, the title seems to be The Return to a Quiet Reverie, but in fact it is a desolate sealing of the darkest and most tragic album by Raison d'être. How many times I have listened to this album? In a sense, I learned dark ambient with it, and with those two previous albums as well. It was also probably the first Raison d'Être album when the more industrial elements appear to begin to appear. So what I'm saying, begin to appear, which also suited me very well. And of course, Peter Anderson later experimented with those sounds on a larger ground, resulting in, among others, the wonderful The Stains of Embodied Sacrifice, an album that was on my list at number 26, as I said. And that album had to be included there. It's very important to me. And The Stains is also kind of a symbol of a modern era of Raison d'Être. Yes, The Stains is important to me, but not as important as The Empty Hollow Unfolds, an album that wins a symbolic bronze medal. Number 3 on my list, Raison d'Être, The Empty Hollow Unfolds. Number 2, Necrophorus, Drifting in Motion, another masterpiece from Peter Anderson, this time as Necrophorus. As it was the case with Fishers, the collaboration by Robert Rich and Ali Odie, I have already discussed this album in depth in a retro review video. You will find the link in the description. But while the second place, even higher than Raison d'Être albums, over the years I realized that while I love The Empty Hollow Unfolds and the others as well, today I don't listen to them that much as this one. Drifting in Motion. Sometimes I stand in front of the shelf with the idea of returning to something I haven't listened to for a long time, or generally listened to very rarely, and my eyes often fall to this dark blue spine, or violet maybe it is, I don't know, of this album, and this desire for other albums disappears, and I reach for Drifting in Motion over and over again for many years. But if you want to know more about my fascination with Drifting in Motion, check my retro review. I leave the link in the description. I just don't want to repeat myself. So instead, before I get to number 1, let me show you a few albums that were very close to my top 50. And as I mentioned in my first video of the series, if I had made this list a month earlier or a month later, probably some of them could have made to top 50. And these are, I got a lot of them, because I just stand in front of the shelf and just pick. Well, this one could be on my list, this one could be on my list as if it would be, for example, top 100, or as I said, if I had compile this list at some other time. Okay, let's see what we have here. For example, apoptose, Schatten Mädchen, Widna obmana, Alio die. This should be like this. Echo passage. Toso AA absorb. Sleep research facility. Dead weather machine. Sleep research facility. Nostromo. Widna obmana, contemporary nocturne. What do we have next? Matthias Grasov, Dämmerung, great album. Rapun, Time Frost. Syncedus, Acrasia. Lastmore, The Place Where Black Stars Hang. Steve Roach, Widna obmana, collaboration Somewhere Else. Lastmore again, Purifying Fire. Kerovnian, From the Depths of Charon. Foundation Hope, The Faded Reveries. Nordhound and Svartsin, The Borrowed World. Also, Lal, Collected. I know it's a compilation of tracks from compilations, but I like it really better than the classics like Continue or Cold Summer. The same situation like with Purifying Fire by Lastmore. Asmoroth, Derelict. Rome and All Sides, Shutun. Tolen, Sternklang. Arctau Eos, Ainara. Euryzentron, A Loneliness of Hidden Structures. City's Last Broadcast, The Cancelled Earth. Visions, Labs. Svartsin, The Traces of Nothingness. Seti, Baika. Innate, The Crackling of the Anonymous. Mount Shrine and Alphaxon, Dream Chambers, another Cryo Chamber album. Also, Aliodie and Aglaya Vayu Roak. Wolfskin, O Ayuntar das Sombras. It's a Portuguese title, I never remember it. Ab Intra, Saprimus, a Polish project. Steve Roach, classic one, Magnificent Void. Circular, Radiating Perpetual Light. Another collaboration by Trome with Martin Bates from Islas in Gaza, To a Child Dancing in the Wind. Aidan Baker, I Fall Into You. Steve Roach, Streams and Currents. Mirror 3, A Beauty of Sadness. A lot of great ambient albums have been released over the years. Another one, Aliodie, A Password of Entheogenic Experience. Amon and Nimr, Sator. The Human Voice, Exit Lines. Rapun, The Kyrgyz Light. Aliodie, I was talking about this album, Il Tiempo Magico di Saturna Pavonia. Tim Hecker, Harmony in Ultraviolet. His Divine Grace, Die Schlangenkönigin. This one may be unexpected, Jason Sloan, Deluge. I love that album, really. Bloodbox, Funeral in an Empty Room. Pragnavit, Svetatium. Biosphere, Cirque. I should also show you Drop Some, but I forgot about it. Lossil, Coast Range Arc. Sator Absentia, True Meaning of Golgotha. Hammerhide again, Asleep and Well Hidden. Asia Nova, Love Like a Veiled Thread. Trome and the Npox, Mnemonic Induction. Opium Sympathetic Flying Objects. Herbstnoid 9 Buried Under Time and Sand. Desideri Marginis, That Which is Tragic and Timeless. And Torso AA again, Identify. I forgot about Sephiroth, Cathedron. I should also show you this one, but I forgot. Thomas Conner, Nuke. What else? Stahlwerk 9, Oradur. Many other albums. If I had a chance and time and force, I could do top 150 albums. No, but it would be too much. Anyway, time for number 1. Sleep Research Facility, Deep Freeze. The third album of this Scottish project from 2007. I mean, formally the fourth one, but Dead Weather Machine Reheat is kind of extended treatment of Dead Weather Machine, the album I showed you a moment ago. In any case, the debut Nostromo, inspired by the first few minutes of Ridley Scott's Alien, already marked the extraordinary talent of Kevin Doherty. Well, marked is an understatement. It's a fantastic album. Dead Weather Machine was even better, even though the description of this album may scare away a fan of normal, let's say, music. Let me read. As an exercise in sample manipulation, Dead Weather Machine draws exclusively from source audio generated by swinging a cheap microphone in front of a misfiring heating unit itself, congested with the fibrous dust of advanced decrepitude and exhuming a near-death rattle from its fractured internal respiratory systems. Sounds promising, right? I got to know those two albums a bit later, I mean Nostromo and Dead Weather Machine, because my first contact with the Sleep Research Facility was on the occasion of the Cold Spring sampler Swarm, which I got for review, and my reaction when I heard this track was Whoa, all right. This rules. I quickly got Deep Freeze. I don't remember if I bought it or if I got it to review. I don't remember really. But when I saw this titles being Antarctic geographic coordinates, like that track from Swarm, I expected something very good, you know. I put the CD in my CD player, and the rest is history. It's a glacial, minimal ambient, just like Substrata by Biosphere. But while Substrata was a kind of image of a frosty but sunny and calm day, Deep Freeze is, as I once wrote in a review, snowstorms, raging winds, and that specific feeling when it is so cold, then that you feel warmth. There is a certain comforting warmth in an encroaching slumber of hypothermia. It's a motto of this album. How accurate! It's a deeply thorough work. There's no place for improvisation, even though the album has a kind of abstract, organic feel. It's beatless, shapeless, based on multi-layered soundscapes and structures, but it's so captivating. And I think that the atmosphere of emptiness and loneliness on ambient albums is felt really most complete here, even despite the fact that there are voices floating in space, probably some transmissions from some Arctic scientific facility. The most beautiful moment of the album, the second half of the second track, which is titled 72 degrees south, 149 degrees east. You know, with all my fascination with this album, I still can't remember these titles. And in that track, those raging frosty wind transforms into an amazing melancholic soundscape. I still feel like I know this album by heart, but every time I listen to it, I discover something new. And every time I think at some random moments, I'd like to listen to ambient music now. Deep Freeze is the first thing that comes to my mind, really. If someone would tell me, you have to get rid of all your ambient albums except one, I would choose Deep Freeze. I can't imagine my life without this album, really. We had to wait 5 years for the following Sleep Research Facility album, but Stealth didn't disappoint. It's a great album, the Stealth. I should also show this one to you. It could easily be somewhere in the top 50 as well. It's a great album, but so different from Deep Freeze. Let me read. Mixed and edited from resampled location recordings originally captured inside the hangar environs of a Northrop Grumman B-2 stealth bomber during a period of downtime maintenance at the US Air Force Base in Cambridgeshire, England. On Deep Freeze, we had the power of nature. On Stealth, we had the power of modern warfare technology, but it still felt like Sleep Research Facility. Another work by Sleep Research Facility, 11 years of waiting and only 20 minutes on the Sargo Posidonia split with Lynn Itzwin from 2023. A bit too short, you know. But I was happy about this split because I thought that Sleep Research Facility had ceased the activity a long time ago. And as I said in a previous video, I am waiting with excitement for the albums of only one ambient project, and it's Sleep Research Facility. And the number one is Deep Freeze. Absolutely my favorite dark deep ambient album. As I said a few moments ago, I can't imagine my life without it. That's it. Top 50 favorite dark deep ambient album series came to an end. Hope you liked it. I hope I reminded you about some great records, and maybe thanks to my videos you'll have the opportunity to get to know some of them and listen to them for the first time. I just realized that if someone wanted to watch the entire list in one go, it would take him 5 hours, give or take. 5 hours of me mumbling. Well, good luck. You'll need it. Anyway, preparing this list has left me a little behind with current affairs. Look, right here, here. These are all records waiting to be presented or featured on my channel. Next week, I'll try to record one short video. I don't know what about it's going to be yet, but later I'm going on a vacation, so nothing will happen in terms of video for 2 weeks or something, and after that I'll get back to the business of regular posting. I need to return also to preparing the Santa Sangre online compilation because the release date is August, but it is quite possible I will postpone it to September. Anyway, we'll see. But since this list received really great feedback from you guys, I'll probably make more of such lists in the future. We have still some other genres like power electronics, neofolk, martial industrial, regular industrial, metal maybe. I used to listen a lot of metal years ago, and a few albums left a big mark on my soul. Maybe some lists of underrated or better overrated albums or something completely different. I think yesterday I came up with the idea of a list of top cold meat industry albums not being dark ambient, so we'll see. But it's almost certain there won't be so extensive list. No top 50 more, top 10, top 20 at most. I had a lot of fun recording these videos, but it was also quite exhausting, to say the least. Okay, thank you again. Leave the feedback, some comment here or on Santa Sangre socials. Click like if you like, subscribe to the channel if you want. Oh my god, 37 minutes and I still have to add the music samples, so it's going to be over 40 minutes long video. Thanks for watching and see you soon.